Number 10. Paul Cézanne. Leading post-impressionist painter, Paul Cézanne has enjoyed a lasting legacy thanks to his innovative approach to perspective, vivid color palette, and use of brushstrokes that were meticulously arranged into geometric forms. In fact, his preference for breaking down forms and using bold tones has often led him to be called a precursor to Cubism. From 1890 to 1905, he produced masterpieces, one after another: the Card Player series, variations of the Mont Sainte-Victoire landscape, 3 versions of Boy in a Red Waistcoat, countless still life images, and the Bathers series of nudes. Public reception to his first one-man exhibition was cool, but he slowly gained acceptance. His work was a major source of inspiration for Matisse, Braque, and Picasso. 9. Jan Vermeer. Vermeer ranks among the most admired of all Dutch artists, but he was much less well known in his own day and remained relatively obscure until the end of the 19th century. The main reason for this is that he produced a small number of pictures, primarily for a small circle of patrons in Delft. Vermeer was a Baroque painter who specialized in domestic interior scenes of middle-class and upper-class life. About half of these paintings show solitary figures of women absorbed in some ordinary, everyday activity. His interiors combine a microscopic observation of objects with a meticulous depiction of the gradations of daylight on varied shapes and surfaces. His masterpieces include Girl with a Pearl Earring, View of Delft, Young Woman Reading a Letter, and Allegory of Painting, his most symbolically complex work. Number 8. Auguste Renoir. Pierre-Auguste Renoir was a French Impressionist painter whose eye for beauty made him one of the movement's most popular practitioners. He is best known for his painting of bustling Parisian modernity and leisure in the last 3 decades of the 19th century. By using small, multicolored strokes, Renoir evoked the vibration of the atmosphere, the sparkling effect of foliage, and especially the luminosity of a young woman's skin in the outdoors. Because of his fascination with the human figure, he was distinctive among the others, who were more interested in landscape. Among his early masterpieces are Le Moulin de la Galette and the Luncheon of the Boating Party. A visit to Italy in 1881 introduced him to Raffaello in the expressive force of clear line and smooth painting, and by the mid-1880s, he had broken with Impressionism to employ a more disciplined, formal technique. In works such as Bathers, he emphasized volume, form, contours, and line. In his later works, he departed from the strict rules of classicism to paint colorful still lives, portraits, nudes, and landscapes of southern France, where he settled in 1907. 7. Raffaello. Raffaello was an Italian painter and architect who is regarded as one of the greatest Renaissance artists along Michelangelo and Leonardo Da Vinci. Raffaello's works are celebrated for the clarity of form, ease of composition, vibrant coloring, and for its visual achievement of the Neoplatonic ideal of human grandeur. In his short life, Raffaello created a huge catalog of masterpieces in the media of oil painting, fresco, and architecture, while a number of his creations were also converted into tapestries. In his later works, Raffaello was a pioneer of the new artistic style called Manierism, where a natural elegance replaced the classical-inspired and ordered grandeur of the High Renaissance. The Marriage of the Virgin painting and the School of Athens mural are considered among his greatest triumphs. Number 6. Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso was the most dominant and influential artist of the first half of the 20th century and was associated most of all with pioneering Cubism, in which he deconstructed the conventions of perspective that had dominated painting since the Renaissance. These innovations would have far-reaching consequences for practically all of modern art, revolutionizing attitudes to the depiction of forms in space. Picasso's immersion in Cubism also eventually led him to the invention of collage, in which he abandoned the idea of the picture as a window on objects in the world and began to conceive it merely as an arrangement of signs that use different, sometimes metaphorical means to refer to those objects. This would too prove hugely influential for decades to come. Finally, he was a famously charismatic personality. His many relationships with women not only filtered into his art, but also may have directed its course, and his behavior has come to embody that of the bohemian modern artist in the popular imagination. His first masterpiece, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, was controversial for its violent treatment of the female body, and the mask-like faces derived from his study of African art. In the 1920s and 30s, the Surrealists spurred him to explore new subject matters, particularly the image of the Minotaur. The Spanish Civil War inspired perhaps his greatest work, the enormous Guernica, whose violent imagery condemned the useless deconstruction of life. Number 5. Claude Monet. Claude Monet was the leader of the French Impressionist movement, literally giving the movement its name. As a matter of fact, his painting, Impression Soleil Levant, shown at a side exhibition to the official salon in Paris in April 1874, is credited with inspiring the name of the Impressionist movement. As an inspirational talent and personality, he was crucial in bringing its adherents together. Interested in painting in the open air, in capturing natural light, Monet would later develop his method of producing a series of several studies of the same motif, like haystacks and Rouen Cathedral, changing canvases as the light or his interest shifted. In 1893, in the garden at his home in Giverny, Monet created the water lily pond that inspired his most famous work, the lyrical Nymphas, water lilies paintings. Wildly popular retrospective exhibitions of his work toured the world during the last decades of the 20th century and established his unparalleled public appeal, sustaining his reputation as one of the most significant and popular figures in the modern Western painting tradition. Number 4. Michelangelo. Michelangelo was an Italian artist, architect, and poet, was considered one of the greatest and most influential of all Renaissance figures. Esteemed by his contemporaries as the greatest of living artists, Michelangelo was hugely influential on the artistic styles of High Renaissance, Manierism, and Baroque. Still today, the great man's works continue to wrench from art lovers worldwide the feelings he expressly intended to produce in all of his art, no matter the medium: admiration of form and motion, surprise, and awe. Michelangelo first gained notice in his 20s for his sculptures of the Pietà and David, and cemented his fame with the ceiling frescoes of the Sistine Chapel. He was celebrated for his art's complexity, physical realism, psychological tension, and thoughtful consideration of space, light, and shadow. Number 3. Rembrandt. Rembrandt van Rijn is so famous that even today we call this Dutch master by his first name. Painting everything from genre scenes to landscape to great historical and mythological paintings, Rembrandt was the dominant force in Dutch art for much of the 17th century. Not only did he create some of the most significant group portraits of the Dutch Golden Age, but he also left behind about 80 self-portraits in the form of paintings, etchings, and drawings. His masterful use of light, as well as his refined and expressive approach to painting, have made him a favorite amongst art lovers to this day. Group portraits included the anatomy lessons of Dr. Nicholas Stolp, Night Watch, and the syndics of the Amsterdam Drapers Guild. History pieces included Judas Repentant, Descent from the Cross, Jacob's Blessing, and the Conspiracy of the Batavians. Number 2. Van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was a Dutch painter, generally considered to be the greatest after Rembrandt and one of the greatest of the post-impressionists. He sold only one artwork during his life, but in the century after his death, he became perhaps the most recognized painter of all time. During his 10-year artistic career, Vincent van Gogh created a vivid personal style, noted for its striking color, emphatic brushwork, and contoured forms. His achievement is all the more remarkable for the brevity of his career and considering the poverty and mental illness that dogged him. The work of Vincent van Gogh exerted a powerful influence on the development of much modern painting, notably Expressionism. Vincent van Gogh is remembered for both the striking color, emphatic brushwork, and contoured forms of his art, and for the turmoil of his personal life. Number 1. Leonardo. Leonardo da Vinci was an Italian painter, draftsman, sculptor, architect, and engineer, whose skill and intelligence, perhaps more than that of any other figure, epitomized the Renaissance humanist ideal. His Last Supper and Mona Lisa are among the most widely popular and influential paintings of the Renaissance. His notebooks reveal a spirit of scientific inquiry and a mechanical inventiveness that were centuries ahead of their time. The unique fame that Leonardo enjoyed in his lifetime has remained undimmed to the present day and rests largely on his unlimited desire for knowledge, which guided all his thinking and behavior. He considered his eyes to be his main avenue to knowledge. To Leonardo, sight was man's highest sense because it alone conveyed the facts of experience immediately, correctly, and with certainty. Hence, every phenomenon perceived became an object of knowledge, and saper vedere, knowing how to see, became the great theme of his studies. He applied his creativity to every realm in which graphic representation is used. He used his superb intellect, unusual powers of observation, and mastery of the art of drawing to study nature itself, a line of inquiry that allowed his dual pursuits of art and science to flourish. Leonardo's notebooks reveal a sharp intellect, and his contribution to art, including methods of representing space, three-dimensional objects, and the human figure, cannot be overstated.